This is Honors Geometry, Lesson 1.3, Part 1. Part 2 is the distance formula. We'll do that in class together. What is a midpoint? A midpoint is the point that divides the segment into two congruent segments. You know a line can't have a midpoint because a line's infinite. There is no middle. And the same thing for a ray. A ray doesn't have a midpoint because it's infinite. So only a segment has a midpoint. A segment bisector, what divides that into two equal parts? Bisect means to cut into two equal parts. It could be a point that divides it into two parts, a ray, a line, or a line segment. It could even be a plane that divides it into two equal parts, and that means it goes through its midpoint. How do we find the location of the midpoint on a coordinate plane? Just like anything else, you would want to find the average to find the middle. So say you got a 94 on a test and you got a 96 on the test and you wanted to find your average. You know you would add those together and divide by 2. We're going to do the same thing to find the middle of the location of a line segment. We're going to take the two endpoints, we're going to add them together and divide by 2 to find where that middle is. So let's go ahead and practice that first. So they're telling us this segment, point C, starts at 3, 5 on a coordinate plane, and it ends at 7, 5. And the question is, where is the midpoint? What's the location of it? So the formula says to add your x's and divide by 2, and then add your y's and divide by 2. Order doesn't really matter because it's addition, so you could do it any way you want. I'm just going to take my x value, which is 3, plus my other x value, which is 7, and I'm going to divide that by 2. Now I'm going to take my y values, 5, plus my other y value is 5, divide by 2. So it looks like we have 10 divided by 2, 10 divided by 2. So it looks like the location of our midpoint is 5, 5 on a coordinate plane. Let's do one more together. So we're going to add, we'll try 18. We're going to add our x's, which is 0 plus 4. Divide that by 2 to find the middle. Take our y's, 4 plus 3, divide by 2. So we get 4 divided by 2, we get 7 divided by 2, so that gives us 2 and 3.5. When you do these problems in Schoology, go ahead and enter it as a decimal, please. Let's go ahead and use that segment addition postulate we learned in the last lesson. So they're telling us point M is the midpoint right there. So that tells me that I know that this side is the same as this side. It's right in the middle. So that allows me to say that I know that x plus 5 equals 2x. Make sure they tell you in the directions that you have a midpoint. If they don't, you can't assume that it's in the middle. So I know that those two segments are equal. So I'm going to subtract x from each side, and it looks like the value of x is 5. Now let's go ahead and answer their question. The question isn't what's x, it's what's the length of segment AM. So I'm going to take my x and I'm going to put it back in. So I know that x equals 5, so I have 5 plus 5, or the length of segment AM is 10 units long. Sometimes they're going to ask us for the length of the whole segment, not just half of it. So let's practice one of those. Let's change colors here. Okay, so again, we're given that M is the midpoint, so that allows me to assume those two segments are equal. So I'm going to say that x plus 15 equals 4x minus 45. Let's get our x's together first. So I get 3x minus 45. Let's add 45 to both sides. So it looks like 3x is going to equal 60. And then we're going to divide each side by 3. It looks like x is going to be 20. Again, make sure you answer their question. The question on this one is what's the length of segment SU? So SU is the whole thing. So if I put it into one of the sides, one of the halves, then I can easily just double it. So I'm going to go ahead and put 20 in. This one looks easier, so I'm going to use that side. I'm going to put 20 in for x plus 15, and it looks like that half is 35 units long. If that's 35 units, I can assume that this side is also 35 units. So to answer their question, what's the length of the whole segment? It's 35 plus 35, or 70 units long. Go ahead and try the 5 practice problems on Schoology and email me if you have any questions. Thank you.